Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnu Padma Mahamsa Parabhakacharya Ashtotar Sarasri Srimad His Divine Grace Asa Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28, verse number 6, titled Kapila's Instructions on Devotional Service.
It's working, okay. That's just good. I'll just get the test the sound. You good?
Okay. Svadish Jnanam Ekadeshe
Swadishyanam Ekadesi.
Manasa Pranadaranam
Manasa Pranadaranam.
Vaikuntha Lila Vidyanam
Vaikuntali Vidyanam.
Samadhanam Tatat Manaha
Samadhanam tatamana.
Svadish Jnanam Ekadeshe
Swadishyanam Ekadesi.
Manasa Pranadaranam
Manasa Pranadaranam.
Vaikuntha Lila Vidyanam
Vaikuntali Vidyanam.
Samadhanam Tatat Manaha
Samadhanam tatamana.
Vadishyanam Ekadeshe
Swadishyanam Ekadesi.
Manasa Pranadaranam
Manasa Pranadaranam.
Vaikuntha Lila Vidyanam
Vaikuntali Vidyanam.
Samadhanam Tatat Manaha. Do we do
Swadishyanam Ekadesi.
Svadishyanam Ekadeshe
Manasa Pranadaranam.
Manasa Pranadaranam
Vaikuntali Vidyanam.
Vaikunthi Labidyanam
Samadhanam tatamana.
Samhadanam Tatat Manaha. Svadishyanam Ekadeshe Manasa Pranadaranam Vaikuntha Lila Vidyanam Samadhanam Tatat Manaha. Svadishyanam
Swadishyanam.
within the vital air circles.
Within the vital air circles.
Ekadeshe
Ekadesi.
in one spot.
In one spot.
Manasa
Manasa.
with the mind.
With the mind.
Prana
Prana.
the vital air.
The vital air.
Dharanam
Dhanam.
fixing.
Fixing.
Vaikuntha Lila
Vaikuntali.
on the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
On the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of God.
Abhijnanam
Vidyanam.
concentration.
Concentration.
Samadhanam
Samadhanam.
samadhi.
Samadhi.
Tata
Tata.
thus.
Thus.
Atmanaha
Atmanaha.
of the mind.
Of the mind.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Asa Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Fixing the vital air and the mind in one of the 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body, thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called samadhi, or samadhana of the mind. Please repeat. Fixing the vital air in the mind, in one of the 6 circles of vital air, circulation within the body. Thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called samadhi, or samadhana of the mind. Purport. There are 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body. The first circle is within the belly. The second circle is in the area of the heart. The third is in the area of the lungs. The fourth is on the palate. The fifth is between the eyebrows. And the highest, the 6th circle, is above the brain. One has to fix his mind on the circulation of the vital air and thus think of the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. It is never mentioned that one should concentrate on the impersonal or void. It is clearly stated, Vaikuntha Leela. Leela means pastimes. Unless the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, has transcendental pastimes, where is the scope for thinking of these pastimes? It is through the process of devotional service, chanting and hearing of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that one can achieve this concentration. As described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord appears and disappears according to his relationships with different devotees. The Vedic literatures contain many narrations of the Lord's pastimes, including the Battle of Kurukshetra and historical facts relating to the life and precepts of devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj and Ambarish Maharaj. One need only concentrate his mind on one such narration and become always absorbed in its thought. Then he will be in samadhi. Samadhi is not an artificial bodily state. It is a state achieved when the mind is virtually absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjanan Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. That's a very beautiful purport from Srila Prabhupada, and a very interesting section of the Bhagavatam. So, controlling the life air within the body is an easy process, right? Yes? Easy to control the air within the body, the 6 airs, and concentrate the mind on the personality of Godhead. And no, it's not an easy process. It's very, very difficult. Dhruva Maharaj was able to control the air within his body. He was just 5 or 6 years old, and he got to a point where he was taking 1 breath every, how many days? 12 days. 1 breath every 12 days. So he got to the point where he was controlling the life air within his body, that the universe was actually becoming disturbed. And it was at that point that the Lord agreed to come down and be present before Dhruva Maharaj. Even Hiranyakashipu, he was a demon and he controlled the life air within his body too. And he was able to, again, disturb the universe by controlling the life air in his body. To the point where Lord Brahma came down to pacify him and fulfill his desires. But in this modern age of Kali Yuga, practically controlling one's mind through the life airs is a very difficult process and not really attainable by most common people. During the lockdown, so many devotees would say, "Oh, it was such a wonderful time. I found it so much easier to control my mind, so much easier to engage in the process of devotional service, because we slowed down. Everything slowed down. There was no obligations to go running outside, to go to the supermarket, to go to the city, to go to work. Everybody slowed down, time slowed down. And so people said, "Oh, it's so much easier to engage in really hearing and really chanting and really engaging my mind in Krishna's service. So actually Srila Prabhupada, he wanted for us to live a simple life for that reason. I read a quote recently where Prabhupada said, don't depend on the cities. The cities won't be there in the future. Live far away from the cities. Make farms. Live simple. And the reason he wanted us to live like that is so that we could engage ourselves and our minds fully in Krishna's pastimes and become much more, gradually come to the mode of sattva-guna, or the mode of goodness, where the mind can peacefully engage in devotional service. So, modern life has many distractions for the mind, weapons of mass distraction. And samadhi, as Prabhupada points here is to fix the mind on one thing, on the pastimes of Krishna. But how to do this when our minds are so distracted with so many other things? So Prabhupada also points out in his purport here, it is through the process of devotional service, chanting and hearing of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that one can achieve this concentration. So there are 64 qualities. Krishna has 64 qualities. And the first 50 of those qualities are minutely present in the living entities. And the additional 5 qualities that makes 55 are minutely present in the demigods and living entities like Lord Shiva. And then the additional 5 that make 60 are also present in Lord Narayan and the Vaikuntha planets.
The broadcast went out in the speakers. Sorry. There we go. That's better.
And the last 4 qualities that make 64 are only present in Krishna. And one of those qualities of those last 4 is that Krishna is like an ocean with waves of pastimes, waves of ecstatic pastimes that attract the minds of everyone. As it said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, even liberated souls, even people who are fully self-satisfied, who have controlled their minds, who have achieved Brahman, are attracted to the pastimes of Krishna. So those waves of ecstatic pastimes are unlimited and unending. And they're all attractive. So when we read the Krishna book, and we actually absorb ourselves in these wonderful pastimes of Krishna, we become attracted to Krishna. He's the hero. He's the lover of the gopis, and he's the cowherd boy who runs around the forest performing all these amorous pastimes that everybody becomes attracted to. And you can see it so much in children. Actually, having children is a great blessing for absorbing the mind in Krishna's pastimes, because every night Prema say, "Can we read the same story again?" So as a parent, when you've had 3 children, I've probably read the pastimes of Krishna stealing butter about 1,000 times. I love that pastime. And it's not that one reading the pastimes of Krishna, as Prabhupada says here, one need only concentrate his mind on one such narration and become always absorbed in its thought. Just one narration of Krishna. Always absorbed in that thought, and it's never going to become boring or static. It's always ecstatic. And every time you read the pastimes of Krishna, you have different realizations, right? Recently we were reading the pastime of Aghasura, and when Krishna kills Aghasura, his soul, I didn't realize this before, his soul goes out of his body and sits in the sky waiting for Krishna to come out. Just sits there waiting, and as soon as Krishna comes out of his dead body, then the soul goes straight into Krishna. There's little details. Oh, wow, I didn't notice that last time I read that pastime. And meditating on the boys who are just charging into Krishna's mouth, charging into the hands of death, but knowing Krishna will protect us. He's there, he's going to look after us. So all of these pastimes, from the childhood pastimes up to the pastimes of Krishna and Dwarka, they're there to attract the conditioned souls. What to speak of the conditioned souls, they're there to attract the liberated souls. And one's mind can become enlivened by engaging in hearing these pastimes. But it says, the Bhagavad Gita has lots of verses that are related to the mind. And this one here, I'm reading from chapter 6, text 6 in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says, the mind is the central point of yoga. So the verse, for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. And the purport. The purpose of practicing the Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind, in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and its mission are spoiled. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart. Real yoga practice entails meeting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his dictation. And in 626, from wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So the yogi or devotee is like a shepherd. What does the shepherd do when the sheep runs away? He immediately brings it back into the flock of control. So a devotee with the mind, the thoughts are like the sheep. They go running off in all directions. And the yogi has to immediately grab that thought and bring it back under control of the self. To the extent that we're willing to do that is our determination. It takes determination, it takes determination, but it also takes intention to control the mind. In other words, one might say, I'm not even going to go there. My mind's just too wild. I'm just going to chant Hare Krishna and let my mind do its thing, and hopefully the Lord will bring it under control. But that's a little bit in the mode of tamas, isn't it? In other words, it's in the too hard basket. I don't want to deal with it. The mode of passion is, I'll deal with my mind and I'll control it to the extent that it gives me the results that I want. To the extent that it's fulfilling my desires, I'll control it. And the mode of goodness is, it's challenging, and I'll take on that challenge and I'll control my mind without attachment to the results, for the sake of improving my service to Krishna. So it takes conscious effort and intention, and the mood is act like everything depends on me, but pray like everything depends on Krishna. So I'm going to take responsibility for my own mind, and I'm going to depend on Krishna to give me the strength to do that and to help me through the process of prayer and consciously taking shelter. So, to what extent do we shepherd our own mind? It's just a question we can ask ourselves. As I'm going to sleep at night, what's my mind thinking about? Am I shepherding those thoughts? Am I bringing them under control? Am I allowing my mind just to run free and do its own thing? Because the mind is like water. It finds the lowest point. The mind is not us. The mind is not the self. The mind is its own entity. It's a subtle energy. And if you don't bring it under the control of the self, then it drags the consciousness down to the lowest point. The mind wants to find enjoyment. And if it doesn't find enjoyment in Krishna's pastimes, in something sattvic, then it's going to find enjoyment in something else. And so it's always a conscious effort to improve our concentration. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explains that goals in life are like links in a chain, until eventually you get to the final link in the chain, which is love of God. And achieving each goal, which may be a very small goal, gives one the ability to then achieve the next goal. So he calls it sadhana and sajya. So the sadhana to achieve something, I may set myself a goal in the beginning, we have to come to a healthy state of mind, right? So for most people in Kali Yuga at this present time, one of the symptoms is they're always disturbed. That's the symptom of Kali Yuga. What's disturbed? Their minds are disturbed. Their minds are disturbed by too many wants and too many needs and too many distractions. So someone coming to Krishna consciousness, the first thing we have to do is to start developing a sense of concentration and a sense of awareness. In the beginning, it's just a sense of awareness of my mind. I can actually separate consciously myself within to the thoughts that are going on in my head. I can analyze that. And I can experience, oh, there goes my mind. My mind's doing this and it's doing that. What do I do? Do I allow it to go or do I bring it back under control? Prabhupada says in his purport, the nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady. But a self-realized yogi has to control the mind. The mind should not control him. One who controls the mind is therefore called a Goswami or Swami, and one who is controlled by the mind is called Godasa or servant of the senses. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesh, or the owner of the senses. So as we were saying before, the point I was trying to make is that it's a conscious effort, it's a conscious journey to being aware of our minds, being conscious to improve our mental state, at least to the mode of goodness, so that we're able to transcend into pure goodness. And it's a gradual process, as Prabhupada points out many, many times in his purports. He uses the word gradual process. It's not that one can go from the mode of ignorance instantly to the mode of pure goodness. It's a gradual process, and that's why the Eightfold Yoga system was there, and that's why the Varnashram system was there, and that's why the Vedic literatures are there. The Vedic literatures gradually elevate a person up to the process of bhakti. So, in Kali Yuga it may seem like, oh my God, there's no hope. Our minds are so disturbed by watching 10 hours of Netflix a week or 20 hours of Facebook or whatever it may be. Some boys, I don't know if it's a girls thing, most of the boys, they'll spend 10 hours a day playing games, gaming on computers, shooting and fighting, and there's even a condition where people who play the games lose reality. In other words, they spend more time in the game than they do in real life. And real life becomes really boring and dull and dry. So the mind's constantly in the computer game. Imagine how hard it is to disentangle that kind of conditioning. Why would you do that to yourself? Why would we allow ourselves to become so conditioned? Our mind, so we have to take another body. We get to get rid of this physical body, which may be giving us so many troubles, but we don't get to get rid of our mind. It's going to follow you. If you ask most people what they're scared of, it's probably their mind. What's the most scary thing in your life? It's my mind. It's a fact. That's why that verse says your mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And one thing I was reading yesterday in the Chaitanya Charitamrita gave me some inspiration that I wanted to share. It's a conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Haridas Thakur.
Just twist your microphone again, because it's going in and out. Just twist it, and you'll see the, not the little one, the big one.
This one?
The big one.
This one?
Yeah, there you go, that's right.
Okay, this is a conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Haridas Thakur. And Lord Chaitanya says, "My dear Thakur Haridas, in this age of Kali, most people are bereft of Vedic culture, and therefore they are called Yavanas. They are concerned only with killing cows and Brahminical culture. In this way, they all engage in sinful acts." So Lord Chaitanya is expressing his concern. And he's worried about the people of Kali Yuga, because they engage in sinful acts. Therefore, how will we save them? And then Lord Chaitanya says, "How will these Yavanas be delivered? To my great unhappiness, I do not see any way." So Lord Chaitanya, this is the mood of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's worried about us. He cares about us. He's like, how can I save you guys? You're in such a dejected situation. Your minds are so disturbed. How am I going to save you from this deep, dark age? So the Lord is Patita Pavana, the deliverer of the fallen souls. And Narottam Das Thakur sings, "Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatara." Oh my Lord, you have appeared just to deliver the fallen souls. And then Haridas Thakur replies to Lord Chaitanya. He says, "My dear Lord, do not be in anxiety. Do not be unhappy to see the condition of the Yavanas in material existence." So this is the mood of the pure devotee. He's wanting to relieve the Lord's anxiety. He doesn't want to see the Lord in anxiety, therefore he's trying to relieve him. And Prabhupada points out this should be the mood of everyone in the movement of Lord Chaitanya. That we're trying to relieve the Lord's anxiety by bringing people up to this stage of Krishna consciousness. And the reason that Haridas Thakur says don't be in anxiety is that even by chanting your name offensively, even by not realizing that they're chanting your name, they may be chanting Harama or chanting some form of your name without even realizing it, they become liberated. What to speak of those people who are chanting with faith and devotion? So when I read this, it gives us a sense of hope. That the power of the holy name, Krishna has invested all of his potencies in the holy name. The holy name is none different from himself. And so in this age of Kali Yuga, he's going to deliver the fallen souls through the process of congregational chanting. And of course through individual chanting as well. But it's the process of engaging in devotional service and engaging our minds in Krishna's pastimes that our minds can become pacified and peaceful. And our minds can find what we're actually searching for. Otherwise, the mind is always disturbed. In 266, purport, Bhagavad Gita 266, Srila Prabhupada states, the mind is always disturbed for want of an ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is Krishna. And the ultimate goal is to love Krishna. by engaging in his service and by absorbing our minds as much as possible in his transcendental pastimes. Does anybody have any questions or comments to further this? Yes?
Just that last statement you used about the ultimate goal of the mind, you know, it's just giving a realization that Krishna is the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
It's the, you know, we're constantly hearing it, but
Yeah.
the mind is like, well, it's flickering, but to actually come to that point of being fully convinced and satisfied at the same time, tricky thing.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Because theoretically, one may say, yeah, I know Krishna's God. I know that I'm a spiritual being. But theoretical and realized is a very different experience, isn't it? It's a very different level.
The mind's always coming up
Yeah.
with so many plans and what have you, but we've got to sort of just make it, accept that we're on the path to the ultimate goal. Just come there.
Yeah, let the mind be peaceful and satisfied in the knowledge that this is the highest goal. And so when we're chanting in the mornings, we can speak to our minds and say, dear mind, this is all you need to do right now. If you can just hear Krishna's name, then you'll be happy. You don't need to go hither and thither, wandering all over the universe. You can just be here and be present and be satisfied. It's almost like we have to coach our minds, isn't it? We have to stand back and coach the mind. My dear mind, come back. Queen Kunti says, as the river Ganges ever flows to the sea, let my mind be forever drawn to thee. That's a beautiful sloka, isn't it?
Another point you were just mentioning is, as a teacher, how the boys are always on the games. And they seem to go through a phase. You know, I experienced the same thing with my son. It was just beautiful summer's day, you know, beautiful beach. All he wanted to do was put the towel over his head and be on his gadget. And we're sitting there on the beach. You know, it was a period there of probably a year and a half where he was just obsessed by it. That's all he knew. That was his reality. And gradually he grew out of it, but there was that period there where it was quite intense.
Sounds like your son was fortunate he got out of it, because not everybody does, eh? I watched a documentary, it was actually in China, and these parents send their boys to boot camps to get them over addiction to gaming. And the guy that was running the boot camp, he said, some of these boys at 20, 21 years old, they wear nappies so that they don't have to stop playing the game to go to the toilet. That's a fact. That's scary, isn't it? So their minds are so absorbed in the game. We need to be that absorbed in Krishna.
Well, the thing that actually got my son off the games was the sidelong glances of the girls. So what was, you know, he's going from one frying pan to another. But that's really what got him off, was the attraction to the girls, was what got him off the games.
Yeah.
You know, so...
And so it's a gradual process, isn't it? The mind has to be absolutely convinced that there's nothing else in this material world that's going to make me happy apart from Krishna. It's simple. It's really, really simple, but actually we are complex. And because we're so complex and so conditioned from so many lifetimes, and our mind is so conditioned from so many lifetimes, it's a gradual process to undo all of those knots. What's up first in the Bhagavatam with sword in hand? One cuts through the knots of reactionary work. But it means we have to be willing to pick up the sword and identify the enemy and actually be willing to put in the energy and the effort that it takes to make that work. It's not a passive process. We have to be active in our Krishna consciousness. We have to be constantly aware of our thoughts and our mind and bring it back to where we want it to be. And unless we're living in an ideal situation, Tilakini Mataji, I spoke to Tilakini, I don't know if she's listening, but we'll glorify Tilakini Mataji because she's a wonderful devotee. I said, Tilakini Mataji, you must think of Krishna in your sleep. She said, of course. Every night, as soon as I fall asleep, I'm dreaming about serving Krishna. And I wake up in the morning, I'm still serving Krishna. And that's her whole life, her whole observation. She's a pure devotee. She's constantly thinking about and serving Krishna, even in her sleep. I wouldn't even tell you about my dreams some nights. But I'm not serving Krishna. Sometimes I'm waking up thinking, why was I not thinking of Krishna? Why was I not taking shadow of Krishna in my dream? So we have to be rightly situated, and the better we can be rightly situated in our work and in our efforts, so that we can be more absorbed in Krishna, all the better. Another morning I came to the temple to serve Prabhupada, and I saw Tilakini, and she said, I had a dream last night, and I was dreaming about Gaur Nitai because I was going to dress them today. And they were being naughty, and I was chasing them around. And I'm just thinking, wow. I want to have your dreams. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.